Welcome to Trauma and Transcendence, where healing meets awakening. I'm Amanda M. Dodd, your guide on this transformative journey. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Let's transcend together. Hello, Soulful Seekers. Welcome back. I'm so glad to have you. Lots of exciting stuff happening. Yesterday I was in this salt cave for Akashic Records, and I'm going back tonight, and we're going to be working on calming the nervous system. I absolutely love what I do. I love being able to take people on these really deep personal experiences to be embodied, but also explore those tend to be more difficult spiritual topics. Speaking of spiritual topics, today I would really love to explore vibration and energy with you. Last month, we had actually explored the clairs in my mediumship development group that I run. My goal is to get everyone to the same level so we can begin having mediumship development circles for practice. And it's a continued space of excitement and inspiration for me to want to create things for all of you to learn to understand yourselves better and to navigate your abilities. So that was a lot of fun. One of the clairs that we had talked about is clairsentience, and I will explain that today. And I really feel that when you are learning about energy and vibration and frequency, that a clairsentient will be the most optimum teacher for this topic. And I myself am clairsentient. It is something that I don't know that I was always very aware of, particularly when I was very young. What was noticeable was that I was immensely shy. And not only shy, I was also very quiet, painstakingly quiet, even when I did have a level of comfort with people. I feel I tended to be more reserved. I tended to keep my cards probably a little closer to my chest. And I didn't really talk about all of the things that I was seeing, hearing, or experiencing. It almost feels like a missed opportunity at times because I feel like the adults that were raising me might have had a better, more authentic, organic approach to raising me had they understood what my inner life was actually like. And I don't know that it's more than most people, but I think it probably is quite different. I have a very rich inner life. And it's that gives me the abilities to now be who I am and do the things I do and help clients reach their goals exploring spirituality and to bear witness to some of these amazing things that can take place. So, a clairsentient is someone who has the ability to feel and read energy. And this could be in the form of emotion, this could be in the form of bodily sensation, it could be the actual energy itself. I mean, a clairsentient is kind of like a barometer. And it can be that specific sometimes. I think me being the shy, quiet child that I was, I think it was easy for a lot of adults to have me around, to work with me, to not feel overwhelmed with trying to guide or lead me into things because there was very little resistance. But I don't know that they knew just how deeply I was listening to everything. And so I can remember when there were times when I would go places with my mother and my stepdad, and he would become just so frustrated because I lacked assertiveness. And so if there were, we're on a beach and there's a hot dog cart and people are, vendoring hot dogs, I would struggle to get in line and to place my order. Most of the time, they couldn't even hear my voice. And I think because his experience was so different, he didn't understand why I was like that. And it was because I could feel the stress off the person. I could feel their overwhelm, their inner agitation. And it didn't exactly feel like a very inviting presence to want to come into, and then nonetheless to then ask them for something. You know? So when you look at it from that perspective, it's just so vastly different, isn't it? And if you are a parent right now, maybe that will give you some pause on how you explore and raise things with your child. I feel like being a clairsentient potentially made me a much better parent. And especially because sometimes I could just feel when something was off and make subtle adjustments. And I don't know, maybe that's arguable as well. Maybe there were conversations that needed to be had that then there weren't because I could feel my way through things. And that became much of my life, feeling my way through. One thing that was very notable as a clairsentient growing up was you could bet that if there was a sleepover, I was going to be the child who would need to be psyched and hyped up to go. And, if I really liked a friend, I would go, but there was always that inner resistance to not really wanting to because there's something to be said about energy and the witching hour. That time from 11 p.m. onward until about 5, 6 a.m., where the energy, I think, begins to shift. And I feel like during those hours, because regular living becomes calmer, becomes quieter, it becomes more noticeable when you're in a home or somewhere different. And then, of course, the other thing that happens is during that witching hour, then any residual energy within the home just feels louder. And so, what could be more terrifying than being in a friend's home somewhere that you maybe don't spend a lot of time already, but then having that awareness of energy shifting? Any loved ones in spirit they may have, roaming the halls, or even previous people who'd lived there who aren't even related to the family that's living there now. And so for that reason, the joke was always I would phone home at midnight to come and be picked up. And it wasn't wrong, but it felt a little harsh because I don't know that anyone was quite experiencing that same thing the way that I was. And it always came with a tremendous amount of guilt because I didn't really want to leave the sleepovers. I didn't really want to leave the friend. I wanted to have that childhood experience like everybody else. But I was highly calibrated and I could pick up so much more in that way. And so I really attribute that to being clairsentient. And it became such a way of living for me that I still rely on it heavily in making any choices that I need to make. And it doesn't even matter the words that somebody is saying because I can feel the emotion behind it. And I know when it's discordant or disorganized or dishonest. I can just feel it. There's that knowing as well. And so when we talk about being able to read and sense and feel energy, the conversation about vibration takes on a whole new life. And often when we think about, low energy, we think about an empath or an introverted person who needs that silence, that solitude to restore their energy. But I would dare to say that this applies to people who are clairsentient. Because how do you bring down the overwhelm that occurs when there's constant feedback? So for me, it always required a vast amount of solitude and silence. And I've always found a great deal of comfort in silence. Even now, as an adult, my home is relatively quiet. You're never going to hear a TV on in the background or music unnecessarily. When I do enjoy those things, it's very deliberate, it's very intentional, and it's in a way that's not going to add to that energy processing overwhelm that can happen. The other thing about being that clairsentient kid was I did not love group things. Like going to a concert was so vastly overwhelming because not only can you feel like several people's energy around you, but then there is the whole conglomeration that happens of energy of everyone with the same intention or as they're singing the same song or several people feeling the same emotion, and it kind of grows in amplitude and it makes it feel that much stronger. And so going to things like that would be so vastly overwhelming. And often my mother would say that she would refuse to tell me about parties or things ahead of time because I would literally become sick if I knew I had to go. I would manifest a reason to not have to be in that situation, and I think that was very psychosomatic, just because I knew I was so uncomfortable, and I wouldn't want to have gone. Most of the time, if I could have worked past that, I would find enjoyment. Lately, I think the trend is to talk about, oh, well, if people are empaths, why don't they empath positive emotions? Well, tell you what, if they're clairsentient, they do. So I could eventually go and enjoy something like a night out of dancing and come home fully recharged and feeling wonderful. But that was when I had to work through all of the other things first. Any anxieties, any tension, any worry, any discomfort. It was a lot. So today, what I really want to dive more deeply into is vibration. Because within the realms of spirituality, there's always the conversation of how to raise vibration, how to maintain vibration. It's true within mediumship. It's true within the Akashic records. When I was in the salt cave last night, that is one of the first things I do with the people that I'm guiding is I help them to get embodied and settle in. But then I create and hold that vibration for the whole group so that they're at a certain vibration to be able to access. Granted, if someone's got trauma, they have a little bit more work to do to be able to do that. It takes a lot more navigating, it takes a lot more self care and regulation, which is why I love so much of the polyvagal theory and working with the vagal nerve and the breath work that I've learned through yoga and other places because it's just so powerful. And as a clairsentient, all of those theories, that breath work is immensely powerful for my own life, for daily living as well, for managing and reserving and storing energy. So, energy is something that exists. Everything is energy. If it has matter, it has energy. It has movement. Now, vibration is the way that we measure that movement. If something is vibrating very quickly, we can visibly see it moving. If something is vibrating very slowly, it appears solid to us. But when we're talking about human bodies, when we're talking about emotion, which is often said as energy in motion, then it can appear a little bit different. And when someone is a low vibration, it's not just the way that they feel, it is actually the way that they operate their body. their movement speed. Have you ever seen someone in a bad mood? Do you ever notice how, like, the head is down, the shoulders are down, they're dragging their feet, and it feels like it takes forever to get them to walk down the hallway? They are physically slower in every way. And the same is true on the other foot as well. When someone's very high vibration, they may be excited, they may be speaking very quickly with high energy. They may have several thoughts bouncing around their head, and it seems like you have to keep up with the speed of light to just be alongside them. That is what it feels like to be clairsentient, for one thing, but also that is energy, that is vibration. And the reason we don't see some things like those sixth sense type abilities is because they're happening in realms that are of a higher vibration. So it's not things that we're used to seeing with our everyday eyesight. But if someone is clairvoyant and they maintain a regular high vibration lifestyle, they are definitely more likely to pick things up and receive those signals. So I find it all just so fascinating. And when it comes to vibration, it's just immensely important for those developmental spiritual skills, but also for things like mediumship. If you can't maintain your vibration for yourself, for your sitter, and for spirit, that makes communication so difficult. And then especially places like spiritual fairs where there's a lot going on, and it's a much bigger room, and there are more people having different kinds of experiences. Sometimes when we get these spiritual readings, they can really crack a person open. Sometimes it's meant to. Sometimes it's because maybe someone wasn't super clear on their ethics, and that's really unfortunate when that happens and completely avoidable. And that leads to a lot. And so when you're practicing in a space like that, managing all of those balls as you're juggling them in the air is a lot. It's a challenge. It's exciting. It's interesting and fascinating and so weird, but also very much part of my daily living. And at first, that really wasn't what I had wanted for myself or who I'd wanted to be. But I get the pleasure of being and doing this. And so now I've embraced it. And I don't know that I would enjoy life any other way. I've really come to rely on these extra skills and abilities. And so maintaining vibration has become crucial. And I'm not entirely sure how it works. If your vibration is based off the average of interactions and thoughts and deeds that you've done, or if it's just the sum of the more recent things, is there a time limit on them? Like, there's no scientific data on how that works necessarily. God, that would be interesting, wouldn't it? So when we're talking about managing vibration, you can actually witness that it's hard for some people, particularly when they have their lives organized in a way that they have to go from one vibration to another vibration to another vibration, and they feel like they're constantly adjusting. And that's a lot. It's a lot to navigate and to explore. So, your vibration is made up of your energy, the data in your energetic fields. It is made up of your emotions. It is also the frequency, which is to say, like, let me put it this way. You are a radio, and your vibration is the way that you're able to navigate different radio stations. Now, if you don't have high enough vibration, you're not going to be able to reach the FM channels. And I know there's a whole generation who's not going to understand this. And I'm completely okay with that. But as you navigate that, the different frequencies are the different radio stations you can tune into. And they have different qualifiers of vibration. So your personal vibration is made up of things like your thoughts. Now, the frequency is, let's say, like the average of your vibration in most times. So, in most days when I'm home, I'm working with clients, I have a very high vibration. That drastically changes when I need to go out in the world and go somewhere like Walmart. um, for a lot of very different reasons. Because one, it's a very different experience to be around other people. Then my body is more of in a state of scanning and exploring what's around me for safety. There's also a higher degree of data coming in because there are so many more objects in my energy field. Just walking up an aisle, each item has its own vibration and may have its own impressions of feelings being left on it. Someone who's clairtangent has the ability to do psychometry, which is holding an item in your hand, reading the energy of what is attached to it. Sometimes they can go as far as giving the item's history. Now imagine that person going to Walmart, going down like the laundry detergent aisle. You've got the vibration of the different scents and smells. And they can be so discordant between different brands, even different types of things. So it's a lot of energy processing in and then out. And that's why our sweet little empaths or clairsentients get so very tired. And then if they have that ability of clairtangency, well, forget it. If they're touching things, they're receiving even more data. So the more abilities you have, the more energy you're processing at any given time. But everything within you, like your emotions, your thoughts, you can have a low frequency thought, and that can kind of drop your vibration. If you dwell on it, that can become a difficult or upsetting emotion. And that emotion could cause a change in behavior, maybe one that is self-sabotaging or even less helpful. Now, every single emotion has its own vibration and frequency. So there's a lot to navigate there. And the other thing is with all of this that vibration is also the way we communicate. I haven't read a lot about the heart math studies, but I have heard a lot about them from authors and various people who have explored their technology. I do know they're a company who has explored brain and heart coherence because I hear Greg Braden talk about them a lot. Also, Bruce Lipton. And what we've learned from heart math is that the energetic field around the heart is actually the biggest out of our whole body. I want to say it extends something like 4 feet all around the body. And so even just think about standing in that Walmart line, 4 feet in front of you, 4 feet and back, to the left and to the right. And that's what that's like for a clairsentient, constantly having that data coming in on all sides. Hopefully you're starting to understand this if clairsentience is not something that you have active currently within you. It is something that you can develop over time, particularly as you raise vibration and frequency of your thoughts, of your feelings. If you create a homeostasis within yourself, then it becomes a little bit easier. And that's why so many people, I believe, find me to be really calming. They feel safe. And it's because I create that vibration and I hold that frequency for myself. And then I just have the gift of sharing it out in the world, because those things that we have for ourselves, we then have available to share. So the more inner peace I've cultivated, the more I'm able to ripple that out through my energy and through the heart specifically. And that's how we communicate. That's how we use the law of vibration. That one is a bigger topic that I will get into another day. But if you think about the language that universe speaks, it's vibration. And frequency is a band, like a channel that can be tapped into. And there are several different kinds of frequencies. Someone can be in the frequency of love, which is one of the highest ones. Or someone can be in the frequency of shame, which is one of the lowest ones. And so we need to essentially be on a healthy diet with our emotions, with our thoughts, with our energetic surroundings. That's why clutter is so jarring and disjointing. It's so upsetting to our energetic field. And you know that someone is really struggling when they live in a situation where there's a lot of clutter because they've become numb to it, or they're trying to build a wall around themselves. So that's a different perspective to look at there as well. It's a big conversation. There's a lot to explore. I'm actually really looking forward to next week because I will be having another mediumship development class on Google Meet. It'll be at about 7 p.m. on the Friday. And we're going to be exploring raising your vibration and also spiritual protection. So, when we explore things like frequency, have you ever heard of the quote, "Your vibe attracts your tribe"? And I find that one so poignant because it really does. That is how we communicate to universe what we need and want more of. And sometimes it's a very unconscious conversation, which is why people don't always manifest the things that they want. Because when we're manifesting and we're using that law of vibration, it's not what you want or think. It's not even what you visualize, it's what you feel more consistently and on a regular basis. I had two questions in the past couple of days, and they're really great questions to explore. And I think I'm actually going to touch on them in the class next week as well. Someone asked me recently, and she was looking for confirmation. And she was wondering about the effects of other people and their vibration, their frequency, their intent when it wasn't a healthful or helpful intent. So, someone who is either casting spells or trying to manifest harm against her. And for those that are clairsentient, we can feel that even before it's manifested. And there are ways to manage and protect against it, which is something that I'm going to cover in that class specifically, because it's a very big topic. But have you ever noticed how likes attract? And when you're already decided that you're having a sad or a hard or a bad day, how then you keep finding more of that vibration, more of that frequency. and that's not accidental. So, one of the big keys when it comes to spiritual protection is to have a high vibration that would be discordant for low vibrational psychic attacks. If you spend beautiful amounts of time in reflection, in prayer, in beauty, in things that raise your vibration, and practicing gratitude and love, then more often than not, those lower vibrational energies cannot even keep up, because remember, those lower vibrational energies are slower. They can't move, not the way a high vibrational being can. And so we'll outrun them every single time. So that's what I look forward to opening up more to and exploring. The other question was, do you think spirit and angels exist separately from us? I think she means to say, are they real, or do you think it's a projection from our own psyche as well? So, two-part question here. Do I believe spirit and angels are separate? It's an interesting thing to navigate, and it's challenging. So, with spirit, we are essentially surrounded by it, but we don't always feel or have awareness of the connection because spirit is higher vibration. When we are practicing mediumship or we're exploring loved ones on the other side, spirit actually has to lower their vibration to be able to reach the radio station, the frequency that the medium is able to access. And that's why the medium has to raise vibration to meet spirit part way. So spirit is essentially all around us all the time, but we're lower vibration. So we don't have as much awareness, at least those of us who don't practice keeping high vibration. Now, angels are essentially the same frequency, if not lower than source, than God. And we are also of that frequency, but we're even further lower down. So they can be separate, it seems. And I believe that's part of why we need to ask for help when we want to work with angels and angel intuition. Because there's that whole element of free will. But then when we do ask and open up to receiving that help, it almost does feel like they are within our energy fields, because they'll use your spiritual abilities to communicate. They'll guide you through your clairsentience. You'll be able to receive signals through your clairaudience, that clear hearing. So it's a really interesting question to explore. And I don't have a yes or a no answer, because it feels like a yes, and although we can navigate it in varying ways. Now, I can see why somebody would think it's a projection from our own psyche. And when you consider the higher self is essentially our self, just in the higher vibrational realms, closer to source. And yet it feels like it's outside of us, but that's because the vibration is so different. And it does feel like a vacillation of the mind because of the way the communication happens. How difficult it can be to be the right vibration to receive it. Angels, being that higher vibration, are very much similar. But if your mind was going to just make it all up and have it be a projection, my curiosity is, why would it be so specific? Why would it be that angel with those colors and that name versus some random made up thing of imagination? And why do we see it repeated in so many other people with similar experiences? So that's kind of the eye opener catch for me that I like to think about and explore. What about you? What do you feel about vibration, about energy, about clairsentience? I'd love to hear more about it. Reach out and let me know. And also what you might have learned today just through this brief conversation that we're having. If you'd like to, you're welcome to join the Mediumship Development Group on Facebook. You can find it via my website, which is healingbeyondtrauma.com. And that way, if you'd like to join up classes or come and give some questions or some insights for when I do these episodes and other things, I'd be thrilled to have you. It's always fun to share and to learn with other people. And I have to wonder, as you think back to your time being a child, are you aware of having had clairsentience, having been aware of energy and energy changes? If you can recall a time when you were perhaps with your parents and all of a sudden you feel the vibe shift because someone's emotion changed, dropping their frequency, or the other way around. Perhaps they were having an okay day and then some wonderful news came in and they have this burst of joy and the vibration changes and then they're more easily able to laugh and to sing and to play. I bet you have. I also bet you haven't looked at it from that perspective of energy and vibration and your ability to pick it up, being clairsentience. Hopefully, that's something wonderful for you to think about and explore. And if you do, I'd love to hear from you to see what your takeaways are, what questions and curiosities you have. But that is it for today, and I will chat at you later next week. Bright blessings. Goodbye. Thank you for joining us on this transformative episode of Trauma and Transcendence. Your stories matter. I would love to hear them and from you. Connect on our website, healingbeyondtrauma.com, or drop me an email at amanda@healingbeyondtrauma.com. Remember, healing is a journey we take together. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired. This is Amanda, wishing you bright blessings.